We're taking a closer look at President Trump's 50% tariff on Brazil and what that means for the cost of coffee.
President Trump says he plans to impose a 50% tariff on goods made in Brazil.
The amount of the tariff is so large that it's going to really affect the price of the coffee.
Imagine waking up one morning, stepping into your kitchen and realizing that your daily cup of coffee, your ritual, your comfort, your fuel, now costs twice as much. Overnight, the price of something so ordinary has exploded. And the reason? A single political decision. This is the story of how President Trump's 50% tariff on Brazilian goods didn't just shake America's economy. It accidentally rewired the entire global coffee trade, pushed the U.S. into a crisis of its own making, and elevated an unexpected quiet hero. Canada. It all began when Washington announced a sweeping 50% tariff on imports from Brazil, home to the largest coffee industry on Earth. The message was clear. Pressure Brazil, control the market, force compliance. But instead of Brazil trembling, something very different happened. The tariff hit like a shockwave. American importers panicked. Contracts were frozen. Shipments sat abandoned at ports, trapped in bureaucratic limbo. For the first time in decades, U.S. buyers looked at their supply chain, the same one they had relied on for generations, and realized they had no guarantees, no stability, no fallback. And as uncertainty sank in, prices shot up. Cafes across the country quietly raised their rates. Small businesses struggled. And ordinary Americans felt the impact every single morning, right there in their steaming cup. But while the U.S. scrambled to clean up its own mess, Brazil's response was calm. No outrage, no desperation, just disappointment and a decision. Brazil wasn't the one dependent on the U.S., the world was dependent on Brazil. And so, instead of waiting for America to reverse its abrupt policy, Brazil simply turned around and knocked on new doors. China opened first, signing massive import orders. Europe followed, ready with long-term contracts. Then came the twist no one saw coming, the entrance of a country that doesn't grow coffee at all. A country of snow and ice, not tropical sun. Canada. Canada buys coffee, drinks coffee, loves coffee, but more importantly, it runs its trade relationships differently. No sudden tariffs, no political games, no unexpected restrictions that leave ships stranded at ports. Where America showed volatility, Canada showed reliability. And in a world where trust is a currency more valuable than money, reliability became power. So while the U.S. was tangled in its own political red tape, Canada acted decisively. Shipments that once sailed toward New York or Houston quietly rerouted toward Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto. Canadian importers stepped in not with force, but with consistency. What Canada offered wasn't dominance, it was stability. And Brazil noticed. Every ship that arrived in a Canadian port wasn't just delivering beans, it was delivering a message. We can be your partners, not your problem. Soon, Canada locked in new deals, securing long-term supply at a moment when the world's largest economy couldn't even guarantee coffee on its shelves. While American prices soared, Canada enjoyed one of its strongest and most predictable import relationships in recent memory. The irony: the tariff meant to strengthen American leverage did the opposite. It exposed American vulnerability. It showed how fragile a supply chain becomes when politics mixes with necessity. Even when the U.S. eventually rolled back the tariff, the damage was done. Trust once lost doesn't return with the stroke of a pen. Brazil had moved on, China invested big, Europe expanded its contracts, and Canada, quiet, steady, dependable Canada, earned a permanent seat at the table, not because of size, not because of pressure, but because in a volatile world it offered what others didn't: predictability. This shift didn't unfold in fiery speeches or heated debates. It wasn't dramatic enough for breaking news headlines. It didn't involve threats, troops, or treaties. It happened silently, gradually. Inevitably, the coffee routes changed, the balance shifted, and the U.S., once the center of global coffee imports, found itself sidelined in a market it assumed it would always dominate. Meanwhile, Canadians continued enjoying stable prices and secure shelves, largely unaware that their reputation, calm, steady, uncontroversial, had become a strategic superpower. And in Brazil, one conclusion became crystal clear. Why gamble with a partner who changes policy overnight when you can grow with partners who value trust? In a world where supply chains can collapse without warning, where political decisions in one country can ripple across continents, trust isn't just important, it's everything. America wanted control, But Canada earned something more valuable: Brazil's confidence. And in the global coffee trade, confidence is the new currency. Because at the end of the day, Canada didn't grow a single coffee bean, but it grew into one of Brazil's most reliable partners. And reliability, not dominance, is what reshaped the global market. You're watching Red Leaf Politics, Canada's voice in a noisy world. Smart analysis, clear storytelling. No drama, just truth. Stick with us and see global politics through a clearer lens.